All right, y'all. First off, thank you for tapping into this special episode of Do Your Homework. We got a Caucus special coming up today. We're going to get into a little bit of sort of what the narrative has been over the last, let's say, week. A lot of moving parts. You guys know how these things go. Typically, when you have an election cycle, people really only pay attention the last 3 or 4 days heading into it, and then the 2 or 3 days after when we comment on who won, why we think they won, and kind of get into the aftermath. But other than that, people don't really pay attention. So we're going to talk about all the things that have shifted over the last week. First of all, I want to get in some clarification on my last episode. I think we kind of went on a tangent there for a bit, which is okay. It's going to happen from time to time. Anybody who knows me knows that. But first, I want to talk into a little bit of how our Constitution really follows Aristotle's model for the creation of a polis and how it directly ties into the formation and maintenance of the individual, the household, the community, etc., etc. So let's get into that. We'll spend about 5 to 7 minutes on that, and then I will at some point, I will take an opportunity to segue into what I've been seeing on social media, because what I've been seeing lately is ridiculous. It's crazy talk. It's crazy. And most of it's coming from the Trump people. I've been saying this for a long time. Trump people are no better than the Democrats who voted for Joe Biden. If you have blind loyalty to an 80-year-old man out of spite for another, you are the same person as the Democrats who voted for Biden. They're the same person. I don't like either one of you. So we'll get definitely more into that here in a second. Let's start with the Constitution real quick, because this is what we're fighting for. This is what 2024 is all about, reviving the Constitution. So how does the Constitution protect the individual? Well, let's start with the preamble. We, the people of the United States, not the states, not the delegates of the states, not representatives of Congress. We, the people, each individual person that aggregately forms this union, are putting together this union for, hold on, let me get the real spiel for you. To form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Just in that sentence, the Constitution acknowledges that, yes, this union is an aggregate of states and people, an aggregate that forms the entire structure of the federal government. Now, we're going to get more into this general welfare clause here in a second, because they use that to just tax people into infinity and spend money on whatever the hell they want. It's how you end up losing $7 billion in the Environmental Protection Agency, which is a fucking joke. But we're going to get into that here in a second. All right, you go on. The articles sort of explain what powers are vested into each branch of the government. So you have first the presidency, the judiciary, the states. Well, first the legislative branch, then the presidency, then the judiciary. Then the states, the amendment process, which is Article 5. We'll get into a little bit of that later. The legal status of the Constitution, and the ratification process. We're not going to get into all that right now. But I will touch on it here in just a second. Now, after that, we have the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. What do those do? Those protect the individual liberties of each individual from not only the majority in a democracy, but from the government, right? So you have a right to free speech. You have a right to practice whatever religion you want. You have a right to bear arms, right? And that one's crucial. We talked about it a little bit last week in Aristotle's philosophy, that if you allow Congress to keep all the weapons, then the people are just slaves of Congress, because the Congress can dictate whatever terms they want. The people have no recourse or means to defend themselves, right? So you can't just have one body of people that is allowed access to weaponry and one that's not. That's why we have the Second Amendment. It gives teeth to all of the other ones, right? Now, ideally, these individual liberties are used so people can compete with each other in a free market. Areas where this is common would be jobs or careers, or mate choice, or, purchasing a home, You know what I'm saying? Accumulation of resources. We are competing with each other for a set amount of resources, right? And throughout that competition, you get innovation and productivity, right? Because I'm looking to be better at what I do than the next person is. And then they want to be better than me. And so there's this push-pull, each going higher and higher on the scale of productivity and efficiency, right? And then you get those individuals, through competing for mate choice, form families. And then those families, they don't really compete all that much, other than maybe whose lawn looks the best, or who's got the best exterior siding, or who threw the best, winter party, whatever the case may be, Christmas lights, some friendly competition shit like that. But it's all fun and games. It all is there to drive camaraderie. Then you got communities, right? The way these communities generally compete, and what they ought to typically share in, especially at a state level, is schools and school districts. School districts compete with each other, right? Blue Valley competes with Shawnee Mission. Shawnee Mission competes with Olathe. And then Olathe competes with, whatever. I think those are the only three in Johnson County, honestly. I don't think there's another one. But let's talk about Topeka. 501 competes with Seaman. Seaman competes with Shawnee Heights. Like, they're all competing with each other, right? It's not a take them over competition, right? Because the framework of the Constitution doesn't allow that. But it does allow them to compete at such a level that, Seaman wants to have better test scores than Shawnee. And in doing so, each student is getting the most out of the school, because the schools are competing with each other, right? It's the same thing for cities, right? There's an entire economic theory behind this that I'll get into maybe later this week, definitely sometime within the next month. We'll talk about the Tebow model, but it essentially postulates that people, when they shop for somewhere to live, shop for a bundle of goods and services, right? And so cities are competing to be able to offer these bundles of goods and services in the forms of schools, police forces, roads, general infrastructure overall is what people are looking for, and city ordinances that are in line with their values, right? Like, I don't live in KCK because the way they do business in KCK ain't how I get down. I prefer to be in Johnson County. I prefer the suburbs. I prefer Lenexa and Overland Park to Merriam and Shawnee. I think they're better run cities, right? But it's a matter of preference, and the fact that they all compete with each other, especially in Johnson County, where you have so many competing cities. It's not like Shawnee County, where you have Topeka, and then there's a bunch of rural municipalities around it. In Johnson County, you have Fairway, you have Mission Hills, you have Mission, you have Merriam, you have Shawnee, you have Prairie Village, you have Leawood, you have Overland Park, you have Lenexa, you have Olathe, you have DeSoto. All of these cities are competing with each other within Johnson County to be the best municipality, to attract the best residents. And that competition is something that everybody in Johnson County benefits from. Everybody. Even if you live in Shawnee, you can drive south to Overland Park and benefit from their public amenities. If you live in Prairie Village, you can still benefit from the amenities in other places, right? Not that Prairie Village isn't great, but you can go down to Leawood and benefit from the amenities that are offered there, right? It's this competition that keeps innovation, productivity, and progress moving, okay? But you have to allow the marketplace to handle that on its own. All right? Now, the states are meant to operate the same way. All right? The Constitution provides a blanket that says all of you have to play within these rules. But outside of that, you're free to do what you want. Right? So Texas doesn't have the same tax rates as Oklahoma. Missouri doesn't have the same tax rates as Kansas. Right? There are people who have moved to Missouri because they like the lower taxes. I choose to pay higher taxes in Kansas because the DOT is way better than the MoDOT. KDOT's way better than MoDOT. Missouri does not take care of their roads the way Kansas does. And anybody who drives in Kansas City knows this. Anybody. You drive through Overland Park during a snowstorm, you're good. The moment your ass gets across the state line, motherfuckers ain't never seen salt. I'm telling you, there are entire exit ways in Missouri that haven't seen salt since goddamn Kennedy was president. Okay? It's bad. It's actually very bad. But they're meant to compete in that way. Missouri doesn't put the same emphasis on their DOT the same way Kansas does. Missouri lessens taxes. They don't spend the money. Kansas spends the money. Kansas gets a different kind of resident. That's how it's meant to work. That's how federalism is designed to work. There's not a one-size-fits-all. All right? It's an aggregation. As we talked about last week, it is an aggregation of different kinds. Many different kinds. Many different kinds. Right? That is the entire nature of the political association. So you have to have different states doing different. Not every place is Florida. That's why Ron DeSantis was never going to win. Not every place is Florida. Florida's a very special case. You're a good governor of Florida. Okay, Ron DeSantis could not come to Kansas and ban school positions, or ban school clubs. He could never do that here. The Republicans here would not allow you to do that. They just wouldn't. And it's not a problem here because we don't have fucking weirdos. We don't have weird ass people like that. If we're just going to keep it a buck, we're not California. We don't have dorks like that. This ain't New York. We don't want our states run like that. Our state runs a specific way and it works. That's why Overland Park is religiously rated the #1 place in America to raise a family. This is a different place than those other places. And that has to be respected. The integrity of federalism has to be respected. It's being spit on right now. It is being absolutely spit on. And there's, I think, a few reasons for that. One, I think we've grown too accustomed to amending the Constitution. We talked about this a little bit in our last episode. I put the book away, I think. I did not. Let me see if I can read the entire quote for you guys from Aristotle, because this, I think, is very important in understanding how we got to where we are and how we have such a concentration in federal power right now. Because we've come accustomed to allowing the majority to just amend the Constitution to whatever they believe is morally right and wrong. And that's bogus. That is something that cannot continue. Let's see. We're on page 73 here. But while these arguments go to show that in some cases and at some times law ought to be changed, we talked about this last week in the case of slavery and discrimination on the basis of race. I mean, look, these are things that today are now like no shit. Like asking you not to be a jackass is the very low bar. Like that's the lowest of low bars you can ask of your individual citizen. We ought to be asking more than that of people in our communities. I should be able to go to my neighbor and ask more of them than not to be a jackass. That's just me. Okay, so we've got over the basic stuff, right? There is another point of view from which it would appear that change is a matter which needs great caution, right? Now, when is this? Both in legislation and in government, which had better be left untouched. The benefit of change will be less than the loss which is likely to result if men fall into the habit of disobeying the government. We must also notice that the analogy drawn from the arts is false. To change the practice of an art is not the same as to change the operation of a law. It is from habit, and only from habit, that law derives the validity which secures obedience. But habit can be created only by the passage of time, and a readiness to change from existing to new and different laws will accordingly tend to weaken the general power of law. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is to say that people just think you can change laws all the time. Like they might obey them, but they think you can just change them, right? And that's the problem I have. We have amended the Constitution more since abolishing slavery and getting rid of discrimination through the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments than we ever did before that. Before that, you had the Bill of Rights, which was one bundle. I'm not counting that, all 10 of them separately. That's one bundle. And then you had the 11th and 12th Amendments, which came within the first two Congresses. They added those two. The first one is suits against the states, and let me look up the second one, because they're not anything drastically important. The other one is the election of the president. They kind of amended the electoral process, or how to choose electorates. But that was it. Those are the 11th and 12th Amendments. Those are the only two amendments passed before slavery. After that, you have bullshit like income tax. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derives, without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Why would you amend the Constitution? Here's what happened. It's my theory. I haven't done any empirical research into this yet. This is a theory, so stick with me. But what happened was, during this progressive movement, you see guys like J.P. Morgan get super rich and blah, blah, blah get super rich, and Carnegie and Rockefeller and Vanderbilt, blah, blah, blah. And these dumb ass progressives, they're stupid. Okay, we need to note that right now. They're naive as fuck, and they don't think long term at all. So let's get into this. These progressives really thought they were going to pass a constitutional amendment to tax the rich, and played themselves. That's what they thought. They thought they were going to take 35% of Carnegie's money and put it into the community. That was never going to fucking happen. Never. So you know what the elites did? The elites said, all right, we'll pass this federal income tax, whatever the fuck, and then we'll just throw in loophole. The tax code's 70,000 pages long. Did you guys know that? The federal tax code is 70,000 pages the fuck long. That's ridiculous. But they do that so that the elites can skirt by the 16th Amendment, while the federal government can point at you and say, I have the constitutional right to take your money. What kind of shit is that? But that's what happens when you get used to thinking you can just change the Constitution. You get the 17th Amendment after that, which rips away the states' rights for representation in the federal Congress. Okay, the way it was designed to work is that it is the people's house. The people vote directly for the House of Representatives, right? Then the people vote directly for their state legislators. Believe it or not, you do vote for your state representation. You should pay a lot more attention to it. You vote for your state legislators, and then your state legislators would appoint a senator to represent the state. That way they could go to the federal government and say, no, you're not going to tax my people into oblivion. No, you're not just going to prohibit alcohol. That's stupid. That's a violation of states' rights. No, we're not just going to do X, Y, and Z. We're not going to approve $300 million for an FBI budget that has been bad to the constituents in my state. No, I'm not doing that. But instead, they've turned that over to the people, again, under this false premise that they were going to actually get something done. It's bullshit. They knew what they were doing. So what did they do with the 17th Amendment? They said, okay, well, the people want it. And they just went ahead and ratified it. And so now, instead of the senators being completely beholden to the states, which they ought to be, instead of reporting to the states, all they do is report to their handlers in Washington, D.C. They have no connection to the state. None whatsoever. I guarantee you half the people watching this can't even name their state senators. It's ridiculous. Can't even name the senators from their state. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely crazy. And it makes no sense. Then you have the 18th Amendment, which was prohibition. That was so bad it had to get repealed by the 20th Amendment. People don't understand. From 1910 to 1930, we had 5 constitutional amendments and the Federal Reserve Act. Why? For what? Okay, giving women the right to vote. Sure. All right. That's cool. If we can give them the right to vote without giving Congress the right to tax us into oblivion, take away the integrity of a constitutional republic, and prohibiting an entire industry that even women enjoy, I mean, we could have did it without all that. Why? This is just what happens when you get used to changing things that are already well established and good. Here's the thing. Without the government taking imagine how much more you could do in your community if you weren't giving 40% of your check to the federal government. Every paycheck. It's not even about the accumulated amount taken over a year. It's every single paycheck. There's like $600 per paycheck that you could be putting into college funds, that you could be putting into index life accounts, that you could be putting towards a gym membership, that you could be putting towards more in rent, that you could be putting towards a vacation for your family, that you could be putting towards a nonprofit organization of your choosing. There's so much money. The federal government actually believes that they will spend your money better than you will. That's what they believe. They're like, fuck you, you're stupid. You don't know what you're doing. Just give me your money, and then I'll go lose $7 billion in the Environmental Protection Agency. I'll give trillions of dollars to the military-industrial complex for them not to be able to pass an audit. I'll go ahead and build a corrupt agency, a $300 million brand new fucking headquarters. Because fuck your money, it's my money. That's how they really view it, guys. And that we honestly have to wake up to this, and it begins today. We have to wake up to it. It has to start today, because the constitutional republic that we were offered is no longer what we're living in today. We live in a highly regulated society that does not respect the rights of the individual, that wants everybody to sit down, shut up, do what they're told, and it's bogus. You guys know it's bogus. All right, but we can't fix it by just sitting here and, oh, what can I do? What can I do? I'm nobody. Okay, Thomas Jefferson was nobody before he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Nobody. Just a dude with a farm. George Washington was nobody. Dude with a farm. Like John Hancock, nobody. Dude with a farm. That's all they were. They were a bunch of dudes with farms who were like, this government sucks. I'm going to create a new one. I can govern myself better than you can. That was the bet. Every single immigrant who came to this country made the bet that they could govern themselves better than the aristocracy in Europe. And they were fucking right. But now we're letting the aristocracy in Europe, that sort of festering old world foundation, corrupt our constitutional republic by vesting all the power in this echo chamber in Washington, D.C. That's completely bogus. Let me give you a prime example. Why the fuck is the Department of Agriculture stationed in Washington, D.C.? Why are they not in Council Bluffs, Iowa? Why are they not in Omaha, Nebraska? Why are they not in Kansas City? Why are they not in Dodge City? Why are they not in Oklahoma City? Why aren't they in Fargo? Like, why aren't they anywhere where there's actual fucking agriculture? What purpose does that serve? Other than to keep them close to the bureaucratic churning machine so that they can do whatever the fuck they're told to do. Guys, it's stupid. Don't listen to it. Don't listen to it. Don't listen to it. All right, let's get into the primary. Let's get into the candidates. The Never Nikki campaign was huge from Ron Paul. Huge. Love Ron Paul. Should have won in 08. Yeah, and I'm black. Fuck Obama. Ron Paul should have won in 08. If Ron Paul wins in 08, this is a totally different country. We likely don't have this problem. But it's 2024, and here we are. So he putting out the Never Nikki campaign. I'm going to put it in the comments for you guys to look at. It's hilarious. It's also very, very true. I think people are starting to come around on the I told you people were going to start losing credibility very quickly. And they already have with Nikki Haley. People know Nikki Haley has no support. There's not even any point in faking it anymore. So that's been going on. But the backdrop to all that is that Donald Trump recently came out and attacked Vivek Ramaswamy because Vivek, while Nikki Haley is canceling campaign events in Sioux City, Iowa, Vivek is at sold out events in Sioux City, Iowa, packed out venues, 500 plus people with overflow during a snowstorm are all coming to his events. Meanwhile, Nikki Haley is canceling events due to weather. Yeah, right. We're not stupid, okay? Some people are. Don't get it twisted. Like the people who thought it was a good idea to ratify the 16th Amendment. That's literally the most retarded shit I've ever seen in my life. But that and the National Security Act, we can get into that later. But it's just absolutely ridiculous to me that you have a political establishment that is purposely propping up a puppet that they know is not real. Okay, and then you have Trump, who's mad that Vivek is, and he's been saying this for weeks. He's been telling people for weeks that the establishment's not going to let Trump be the president. They are purposely setting this up so that they can get rid of everybody in the race except for him and a puppet, and then they will take him out of contention. Whether that's through one of the legal channels, whether that's through the ballot, whether he has a mysterious heart attack or stroke. Okay, and the motherfucker is 80. We have to remember that. He's fucking 80. He ain't got long. This idea that he's going to last 4 years in office is crazy. He's not. We have to be real about this. But one way or another, they're going to get rid of him and they're going to trot in Nikki Haley. And he's been saying that for a while now. And now Trump is, and this is how you know it's a cult. They'll say it's not a cult. Oh, you want to call Republicans a cult. I didn't say anything. I haven't even said Republicans. I'm talking about Trump supporters. People with blind loyalty to the orange man. Cult. They treat this man like Jesus. Literally. They take what he says as gospel. He just came out straight up and said, Vivek isn't MAGA. What the fuck? First of all, who the fuck are you to decide who wants to make America great again and who doesn't? Just because he's not throwing blind loyalty behind you, he doesn't love his country? Who the fuck died and made you Jesus? Who made you the sole arbiter of the America First movement? And then you got all of his minions. I tell all the Magalites, short for acolytes. It's for, if you're in the occultist stuff, the acolyte, the neophytes are the first group of people. And neophyte means you're nothing. You're at the base camp. Acolyte is higher than that. You've achieved so all the acolytes, all the people who've been dick riding Trump since 2015, come out of the woodworks with just bogusness on Vivek, just straight bogus. I've had to debunk so much bullshit today. It's ridiculous, guys. It's bad. There's a video recirculating from this Asian guy named Matt Kim that he posted in August before the debate started, saying that Vivek is, and it aged so well. Oh, it aged so beautifully. Vivek is the establishment puppet. He's a Trojan horse. Oh my God, large firms invest in a publicly traded company. Oh my God. Private. Dude, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck. If you're going to talk about financial markets, please know something about them. Please know something about them. Let's start with this. If you are a publicly traded company, your shares are open to the public. You do not get to decide who invests and who does not. That's the whole point behind being fucking public. Okay? So if BlackRock dumps $25 million into a publicly traded company, which they do with fucking 95% of publicly traded companies, because they invest in the entire economy, that does not mean he's owned or bought. That's stupid. Try again. All right? Now, let's go into one of the other things that is typically used to debunk Vivek, which is his pharmaceutical history. Clearly, nobody's actually done their homework on what he did in pharmaceuticals. So he used to work for a company that basically what he did was supply capital, source and supply capital for projects, right? This is something that I'm trying to do with my real estate business brokering, and then I got a financial planning interview later today. This is exactly what I want to do. Source capital, place it in areas where it's not only going to make the client money, but where it's needed, right? I want to invest in business owners who are doing a really good job. All right, so that's basically what his job was. And then he discovered an inefficiency in big pharma. He's like, he explains this very well. He says they have a herd-like mentality where they kind of just, for example, let's say insomnia is the fucking disease of the day. All of big pharma will just hammer insomnia for however long. And then insomnia will fade out, and then they'll go into another one, fucking anxiety, depression, whatever, COVID, whatever the fuck it is. They're all just in this herd line. It's not really about developing the best medicines and getting them to the market. It's about trying to outcompete people in whatever the disease of the day is, whatever the disease du jour is. Okay, and on top of all that, there's no incentive for innovation. If your product loses, you take all the heat, you get fired. You're a pariah as a scientist. If you win, you don't get to benefit any of the upside. You just get your standard salary, a pat on the ass, and a good job, buck. So Vivek was like, you know what? I can do this better than you. I am going to buy these patents because for the FDA, for anything to pass, it has to be tested for at least 10 years. Okay? And that sort of barrier to entry makes it impossible for smaller competition to enter the marketplace and actually provide heightened competition, which would reduce prices and increase innovation in the marketplace. Believe it or not, guys, free market and deregulations with competitiveness in the marketplace is better for consumers. Okay, this is why large businesses fight against these things, because it's better for consumers. It's not best for them, right? We live in a consumer-based world. We are the marketplace. We need to be thinking about what is best for us. Okay, and that's just one example of a regulated industry where it's really difficult for newcomers to come in because you have these barriers to entry. Well, Vivek found a way around that barrier to entry. He said, okay, well, you have this drug. It's been in development for 8.5 years. And we think that it's really good and that you just quit on it. And I think I can put better scientists on it and get it passed. 5 years, he developed 5 drugs. You can only do that if you're buying patents. So that's what he did. And so you'll hear stories like, oh, he bought an Alzheimer's drug that had failed 6 times. Half the drugs on the market failed more than that, you dipshit fuck. How can you be that stupid? I've been very passionate today, as I'm sure you guys have noticed. But how can you be that fucking retarded? It does not make sense for you to be that fucking stupid. Think for a second. When is the last time you went and did anything and got it right on the first time? Motherfucker, I bet you couldn't tie your shoes the first time you tried. It probably took you several times to figure out how to tie your shoes. And then you're going to come at a company because a drug, a researched and developed medicine, did not work the first time. No fucking shit, Buck. No fucking shit it didn't work the first time. No fucking shit it didn't work the second time. That's how life works. You try, and you try, and you try. Here's the thing. Nobody ever said anything to Thomas Edison about the 100 times he failed with the light bulb. Nobody ever said that. Nobody ever said, oh, Thomas Edison, he duped his investors because his 97th invention didn't work. Dude, it's a fucking trial and error process. That's how this works. That's life. Trial, error, trial, error, trial, error, trial, error, complete. That's why perseverance is a virtue. Dipshit. If everybody got everything right the first time, there'd be no incentive to try. Everybody be rich. Everybody be in shape. Everybody'd have hoes. Come on, dude. Don't be stupid. Don't act simple Jack. That's what you can't do. I can't do simple Jack. I can do maybe simple Jim. Maybe you ain't all the way there yet, and I can just sort of scoot you in the right direction. But don't go full retard. Never go full. These motherfuckers have gone fully retarded, saying things that don't make sense. Okay, and then lastly, people talk about, oh, the Soros connection. WEF. Oh my God, Soros, WEF, Soros, WEF. Not even the same Soros, dipshit. Not the same. Here's the thing. The source that they use, they're like Soros Fellowship. If you look at the top of the page that they use to source this information, I shit you not, because it has this picture and everything on it. It says Paul and Daisy. For those of you who don't know, George Soros is the one everybody hates. Paul just happens to be his brother. And the fellowship is for a merit-based scholarship for kids of immigrants who are going to graduate school. That's literally what the scholarship was for. A friend of his told him about it, and so he applied, and he won it. The man took a scholarship 17 years ago from a dude who's dead. He must be beholden. Get the fuck out. That's so stupid. So stupid. And then the last one, the WEF one. World Economic Forum. They're globalist pieces of shit. Let's start there. But here's the thing. Even if he was propped up by the entire establishment, it makes no sense for the establishment to systematically censor him out of the race. When they take polls, they don't even offer Vivek as an option. When you go look at MSM, whenever they put their poll, they don't even put Vivek's name up there. They only put Trump, DeSantis, Haley. How can you be a Trojan horse for the media if the media don't even acknowledge you? There's little to no thought that is going in, but this is who MAGA is, and we have to expose MAGA, not Make America Great Again, not America First, not the Republican Party, Trump, the MAGA-lites, and their little neophyte followers. Those are the people we have to expose because we have to let everybody know they are no better than the Nancy Pelosi followers. They are the same fucking people. Do what I say. Do what I say. Do what I say. We love Trump. We love Trump. Didn't build a wall. Didn't drain the swamp. At some point in time, they're going to have to confront the fact that Donald Trump hired Dr. Fauci. He authorized warp speed for a vaccination. He hired Nikki Haley. He hired John Bolton. He hired Christopher Wray. All these swamp creatures they claim to hate, he hired them. All of them dick rode Vivek until Donald Trump said, Vivek bad. And then they all said, Vivek bad. We got our marching orders from Donald Trump. Vivek bad. Bad Vivek. Bad brown man. How dare you? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? We got to expose, because it doesn't matter if it's on the right or the left. That is not one of the principles of America. And you guys know I call people stupid all the time. People who deserve to be called stupid. That's fine. That's fine. People have called me stupid before. That's okay. That is okay. We can have disagreements. We can have heated disagreements. What we're not going to do is just suck the dick of one man into oblivion because he said, like, we don't do that. We don't just say, oh, Caesar, God. No, that's not how this works. Trump, God. That's not how this works. We don't do the idolatry thing here. Okay, we are a nation of independent patriots and free thinkers who have come together to form something greater than ourselves. That is the spirit of America. That is why I love this place. That's why I'll never leave this place. That's why I will fight tooth and nail for this place, so that my children can inherit the Constitution of these United States of America as written. It's a beautiful thing. Very, very beautiful thing. But we cannot let either side. I don't give a shit who you are. I don't give a shit what you think you know. I don't care what you studied in college. I don't care what you do now for work. Okay? We cannot let people with blind loyalty to an 80-year-old man out of spite for another dictate who runs the country. That can't happen. That just can't happen. All right, now I understand I went off on that for a while, but I had to disseminate the bullshit because it's starting to get out of hand. And the Nikki Haley stuff, you guys already know how I feel about that. That's been debunked. I've seriously never met a person who is a Nikki Haley fan. I've seen maybe a dozen of them on differing social media platforms speak in support of her. I think probably half of them are trolls, to be 100% honest with you. You can even go to her content. You will not see a lot of people who are fans of her. I think people only subscribe to her. That way they can talk shit to her. I'm dead serious. And then I already said what I had to say about DeSantis. He's a good dude. The problem with DeSantis, the blessed and cursed thing about DeSantis is he is a fantastic soldier. All right. Would I want to be in a foxhole with him? You're fucking right, I would. But I need to be in charge. Okay? Because he's exceptional at taking orders. He's exceptional at executing his marching orders. He can't be in charge of the country. He can't be, because somebody else has to tell him what to do. I don't want... The President of the United States should not have to rely on consultants telling him what to do. That bothers me. As a president, you should understand the powers that are vested in the presidency and what can be done. Not say, oh, I want to do this, and then have some political legal consultant say, oh, well, according to U.S. Code P-4781, no, dude, get the fuck out of my office with that shit. Get the fuck out of my office with that shit. And that's what happened to Donald Trump. At a certain point, you have to admit that Donald Trump operates within the same swamp he said he's going to drain. He's in it. He just took an endorsement from Bruce Reistetter. He owns a pipeline company that is looking to leverage federal subsidies in eminent domain. Federal subsidies are basically taxpayer dollars, your tax dollars and my tax dollars. Because again, the government thinks they can spend our money better than we can. We're going to take your dollars, give it to a private company so they can take land from other private citizens and build CO2 capture pipelines under farmland that feed you. And Trump's okay with that. It was literally 2 hours after getting that endorsement that he's like, Vivek bad. Vivek's not MAGA. That's a wasted vote. Blah, 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 blah. Like, yeah, open your eyes, people. Just open your eyes. Vivek's been saying Donald Trump's going to get ran out of contention for weeks. Literally everybody can see it. For weeks, he's been saying this. Donald Trump could have said something 2-3 weeks ago. Then, on the eve of the election, right after he gets that sneaky endorsement, because he would not win Iowa if it was public knowledge that he took this endorsement. He'd have no chance. because Iowa farmers aren't fucking with that. And that's why I'm spreading this message right now, because everybody's got to know. If people knew that Trump was taking that endorsement 2 weeks ago, his Iowa numbers would have fagged off by half. And so what does he do? He gets the endorsement from the pipeline company and then attacks the only person who's spoken out against the pipeline. The only person who's filed an amicus brief. Vivek and his legal team filed a brief to the Supreme Court giving the best legal arguments in Trump's favor for the Colorado ruling. He submitted a Freedom of Information Access request to the federal government for his court case in Miami to understand what the hell. Nobody's done more for Donald Trump in this campaign, in this election cycle, than Vivek. And then he attacked Vivek on the basis of something he's been doing for weeks, only after he got an endorsement from a pipeline company who stands to gain $300 million for building pipelines over people's land. I hope, open your eyes, guys. I hope my followers out there, I hope you guys are listening and paying attention, because this is getting out of hand. We got to do something. And I don't even mind Trump. That's the thing, is I don't have any specific animosity against Trump. It's the cult-like following, it's the jackassery entitlement, and it's the fact that people blindly support a man who did nothing but say you're allowed to drill, frack, and burn. Like, oh my God. Give the man a fucking award for saying cheap energy is cool. Is that the incredibly low bar that we've set for the president? Don't fuck with U.S. energy? Is that it? Because if that's the case, I'm going to run in 2032. I'm just going to run and say the exact same thing. Why shouldn't I win? Everybody listening to me right now could do the same job Donald Trump did in 2016. Literally everyone. Because the Constitution is written such that you're really not supposed to do much of anything. It's incredibly cumbersome. You have to get 2/3 of Congress to even vote for it. You have to get 3/4 of the states to ratify it. I mean, that's 38 states today that would have to ratify an amendment to the Constitution. That's a lot. It's meant to be such that the process is intentionally cumbersome so you don't get bad ideas through the front door. But every now and then you get bad ideas through the front door because people get wrapped up in this fervor of things that just ain't true. And then after again, we talk about the passage of time, it becomes a habit. It's been 100 years, 110 years that we've had that 16th Amendment. People think that's normal. It's not. It's not normal to just give the government your money in perpetuity. There's nothing fucking normal about that. But is Donald Trump going to talk about it? No, he doesn't give a shit. He knows the loopholes. And if he doesn't know the loopholes, he can afford an accountant who does, and you can't. So he has a competitive advantage. They're not going to get rid of them. Vivek actually might. Okay? Now, again, it's impossible to say what the man will do once he gets there. But he's at least paved the way and said, you know what, I will advocate for a 12% flat tax. Again, I think we should get rid of federal income tax, period. Period. Do not give these people your money. They're just laundering it. That's all they're doing. They're just laundering it back to themselves and their friends. That's all they're doing. They're taking your money and giving it to somebody they like. And they're enriching themselves with a pool of taxpayer money. It's bullshit. Keep your money in your pocket. Imagine how much more you could do with your life with 30% more of your own fucking money. Imagine the house you could afford. Imagine the schools you could send your kids to. Imagine the vacations you could take. That's what this is about. It's about reviving free market enterprise and the ideals laid out in the Constitution that allow for it to happen organically. And to great effect. What people don't understand is we led the world in GDP beginning in 1892. 15 years before the federal, longer than that, 20 years almost, before the federal rights laws passed, for the federal income tax laws passed. Almost 20 years before that. 27 years after we fought a civil war. We literally torched half our country. And within 30 years, it's like, yeah, fuck you guys. We got the #1 economy on the planet. because the ideals laid out in the Constitution are beautiful and they are great and they do work when you don't have jackasses and idiots running your country. So let's just get back to some sense of normalcy. Let's get back to high character, high articulation, high intellect, and praising that over loyalty. Okay, politics is not about loyalty. That's how you end up with a monarchical system in the first place. That's how you become the Roman Empire, when people are more loyal to Caesar than they are to the Roman state. And that's not even what Caesar wanted, if we're being 100% honest with you. It really happened under Augustus and Marcus Antonius, where their men were just simply more loyal to them than they were to the Republic. So they said, you know what, fuck them. We just do our own thing. All right, you can't have that. And it can't do that on either side. Because the Democrats, they don't even, that side doesn't even care because they know they're all interchangeable. At least on this side, we have some principle. There's not a whole lot, but I mean, yeah, Trump is better than any Mitch McConnell, pick your favorite old ass Republican over here other than Ron Paul. Like, yeah, okay, he's better than those guys. I'm taller than my 5-year-old. Like, who the fuck cares? On the left, they don't even give a shit. They straight up don't care as long as they are on board with the DEI, climate change, and all that other bull. As long as this ideology, very Marxist, and it's not even that Marxist is inherently bad. It's that in order for it to be practicable, it has to be tyrannical. Like, there's no way you can regulate, let's say, carbon capture or carbon output without a surveillance state. There's no way to regulate who's on the internet without a surveillance state. There's no way to do certain things without constantly surveying your people. There's no way to take away guns from people other than outright be tyrannical about taking guns away from people. And then the nature of, as we've spoken on before, one group or class of people not having weapons, one group or class of people having access to weapons. In this case, without the Second Amendment, it's criminals and the government. Thomas Jefferson literally says the two worst things to a free and open market, to a free people, is criminals and government. You take away the Second Amendment, who has guns? Criminals and government. And everyday law-abiding citizens are a slave to both. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. But again, if you have this idea that, oh, we need to stop gun violence, then you have this tyrannical view on how to get it done. And it's not going to work. Just like the 16th Amendment didn't work. Just like the 18th Amendment didn't work. These same mold of progressives are arguing for the similar... It's a similar line of thinking to get the 16th and the 18th Amendment as it is to try to take away guns. It's such a short-sighted answer to the problem. It's like, oh, they're super rich, and we think we can spread that money around. Let's tax them. Okay, that sounds simple, but then what do? Oh, they lobby the government for changes to the tax code. Now it's 70,000 pages long, and you can't touch them. And the same thing with the 18th Amendment. Again, it wasn't as if these people had illegitimate gripes. These women were getting beat up and raped by their husbands. I mean, it's fucked up. Many of those men probably should have went to jail. Half of them probably should have been castrated. Probably pieces of shit. I'm not going to sit here and say that they didn't have a legitimate gripe. But sitting here saying, oh, if I take away the alcohol, he'll stop getting drunk. That's short-sighted and stupid. That's not how that works. You know what men started to do? They started to make their own moonshine. They started to bootleg their own stuff. You started having speakeasies. And then tens of thousands of people were imprisoned or killed who would have not otherwise been imprisoned or killed had alcohol just been legally regulated the way it ought to have been in the first place. And that's what ended up coming out of it. I'm not saying that there weren't valuable lessons learned through prohibition. You know, now you have to have a certain license to wholesale. You have to have a certain license to sell individually. You have to have a certain license to sell in different areas, and it's highly regulated. That way we know who's pushing what. Okay, because with alcohol, it's a dangerous product. I get that. There's nobody alive today who is sitting here questioning alcohol laws. Right? But every single one of us, even during COVID, this is how far we came in 20 years. In 1920, we prohibited alcohol. In 2020, liquor stores were an essential business. That just goes to show you how when certain laws are enacted and certain ideas are put in place, you can understand why over the longest periods of time they don't work and why they ought to be either never have enacted, like the 16th or 18th Amendment should have never been acted, or to change something like slavery, which ought to have never been allowed under the Constitution anyway. So I appreciate you guys staying on this long. This is a long episode. I hope everybody watches it in its entirety because I do think it is very important to understand that the media is coming after, not even just the media plus every candidate on the campaign trail is coming after Vivek Ramaswamy with a purpose. Okay? It is because they give no fucks about preserving our constitutional liberties. None whatsoever. They have an agenda that is going to help them make more money. Period. That is it. Okay? Vivek quit 2 jobs as a CEO of multi-billion-dollar companies because he knows as well as I do that doesn't mean shit if our kids don't have a country to grow up in. Doesn't mean a goddamn thing. That's what I'm doing this for. That's what I hope many of you guys will do this for yourselves, for your families, nieces and nephews. It's greatly important that we're paying attention. We're not letting the poison get into our ears and infect our way of thinking. We're going to keep it trucking. I'm going to do an episode later this week. Again, people's credibilities are going in the toilet starting tomorrow, and I can't wait to expose the truth. Tap in later on, do your homework, like, subscribe, all that shit. I'm not hard to find. If you ever want to catch up with your boy, just let me know. Have a good one.